Hello, everyone. This is Nicholas P. Ugero, and I have the pleasure and honor of having Cory Edmund Endrulat on my channel today. Thank you so much for coming on, man. How you doing?
Hey, how's it going? I'm glad to have your company. We've been talking for a while. You've been putting out content, you've been putting out interviews over the years, and I have to just first applaud you for that. Like, thank you. We talked a little bit about that beforehand. I was like, man, you interviewed We Are Change and World Alternative Media and Dan Dix from Press for Truth too, I'm pretty sure. And like,
Yeah.
man, those are all these great guys, and it's really cool that you got to meet them in person and do an interview. Maybe one day I'll do the same thing, but I think it's I think it's great because we need to bring people together. That's what I'm doing with a lot of the interviews that I'm conducting lately, and I'm glad to see a fellow person who's putting out the work and doing the interviews as well.
Yeah, I very much appreciate your kind words. Thanks. And yeah, it's a pleasure talking with you and having you on here. I'm definitely admiring all the stuff that you're doing. You're pumping out content left and right, and it's interviews or shorts, like short videos, or just you speaking to the camera, just going over information, and then the books that you are making, all this other stuff, and I just figured out how old you are. I'm just like shocked. So yeah, this is awesome. I'm really looking forward to this interview. So for people that aren't aware of who you are, what you're all about, if you want to give an introduction of yourself and your work.
Sure. So my name is Cory Endrulat. I consider myself a fellow messenger, just like you, who has knowledge to share on behalf of my moral obligation to have certain knowledge that other people perhaps do not have. I am morally obligated to share that knowledge with others. And unfortunately, I've come across very powerful information. I say unfortunately, well, fortunately, but it's also unfortunate because you don't want to have information that other people don't have when you realize the whole world needs it, and without it, they will literally go extinct or reach stagnation in their evolution. They will become into involution, meaning they will regress and therefore they will also regret. They will not like the decisions they've made and therefore they will not like the world that they've made. They will have past traumas, they will have fears, and it will all delve deep into their slavery, which is what I've come to unravel. I've written a book called Slavery Gone for Good, and it goes into a lot of the different aspects of slavery. And I've brought back this word called abolitionism in the real sense of saying, well, we are tackling slavery and we want to get rid of slavery. So I consider myself an abolitionist and I want to end slavery. I'm saying it still exists today. And we are actually allowing it through our actions, through our effects, through our mentalities, ultimately, which contributes to those actions and effects. So I try to break those things down, and I've also tried to look even deeper than slavery because it's not just that, it's the whole fabric of our world that we're trying to understand. There's a reason why we would abolish slavery, or there's a reason why we would want a better world, or a reason why we want a better life, a life that isn't just in perpetual suffering of constant news media, constant consumerism, and dead ends of like, oh, this is nothing existence and there's nothing more to see. There is always more to learn. And, I said this to you before because we were talking about zodiacs and, gems and essential oils or what have you. These are all useful tools, but there's even more than that. And even natural law, there's even more than that. What is natural law really but nature itself? Nature, this is one of the main messages among my works is nature is the answer. So I just consider myself a fellow messenger because I'm not the answer. I want you to do your research. I want you to look into my words and to think about the knowledge for yourself. Not necessarily filter it through your brain, but enough to have an open mind while also thinking critically upon what I'm saying. So don't just accept everything I'm saying. Quite obvious, right? But it's a disclaimer I must make because many people do not think for themselves. Many people do take the words of others and they'll do it even against their own moral judgment in the case of order following, in the case of the mental slave who wants to be a slave, who doesn't want to follow their own conscience and say, yeah, I want to be free. No, they say, I'm meant to be a slave. And I'm saying, no, that's not the case. You should be strong enough and you should gather the courage and gather other people if you must to free yourself. That is totally possible. In today's world, we are becoming increasingly enslaved. People see our freedoms are going away. If you don't see that, well, maybe this isn't the interview for you, or maybe you have to look into more information about this. Because again, I'm just a fellow person sharing my heart. I don't intend to make money off of this. I don't intend to make anything out of this. In fact, if my message is nature is the answer, I don't even need to be on technology. I'd rather just be outside gardening or something. But instead, I use my energy toward putting out presentations and book materials. Why? Because there's a message that I see is necessary. Not just nature is the answer, but that slavery is still existent and we must end it. And that ultimately is what benefits our nature because we're born free. We're naturally free. So that's my introduction. And of course, I have to kind of tie it into what I am doing, but that's because my work is my purpose, and that fulfills who I am. I show myself through my actions. That's my presence.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely appreciate the the detailed introduction because yeah, a lot of that's resonating with me. It's I know personally in my own life I've been really slacking on content creation or doing some editing at the very least. I have plenty of interviews I can really buckle down and edit them and produce them and get them out on BitChute and Odyssey. I just haven't done that. Just getting that fire under my butt. I haven't been really feeling it too much. So having someone like you on with that drive and the passion and the constant output of content, it's really inspiring for me, and I feel like it would definitely be it's definitely inspiring for others. Absolutely. And I'm looking forward to having more of this conversation because I know it's going to be very, very good. Because leading right up to it, now we got the description of your books. So I know you said Slavery Gone for Good. I know that you have another one. So if you want to break down like the book titles, just break down what they're all about, give a nice little synopsis, and let people know about it.
Sure. So, Slavery Gone for Good is the one book that I mentioned, which goes over the nature of slavery, essentially, or the nature of abolitionism in relation to slavery, how we get rid of it. So, not just defining what slavery is, but how we actually get rid of it, in the hence the word abolish means to get rid of it. So, we are focusing on slavery and saying this is what we can focus on to understand our freedoms ultimately, because slavery is the opposite condition of freedom. So, if we understand that condition, which is inevitably rising so long as we lose freedom, then we can bring things back and in the direction of freedom to say, well, wait, this is what slavery is. Therefore, we should not head toward that direction. That's our purpose. That's our final goal. No, slavery is not the final goal. We don't want involution as our main goal. We want evolution as our main goal. And therefore, we need to increase prosperity, freedom. And with that freedom comes possibility of solutions. Only in a world of freedom do you see solutions, all sorts of different solutions, not just one type of solution that applies all across the board, like in the case of law. That must be done this way by this person must decide this is how everything should work. Can any one person do that? And so this book kind of asks those questions, and it goes question and answer format so people can think for themselves and connect the dots between the different topics mentioned. Because you have to define the concepts first, then connect the concepts, and then you can even look at the people of the past, because I'm not the only one who've said that. Again, I'm just a fellow messenger. There's many others doing this work, not just myself. There's yourself, Nicholas. You're putting out a lot of great work, and you have a great mind of your own. Everybody has a great mind of your own. Use it. And these people of the past did not get all the recognition that I think they deserve. A lot of abolitionists who held very grounded positions as to why they wanted to end slavery. But often we just look and say, oh, well, it's racism. Oh, it's the North versus the South. Oh, it's the Civil War. It's Abraham Lincoln. Like, no, that's just the surface. Below that is some deep moral contentions where there's people who say this is morally incorrect because we have a conscience, because we have equal rights, because we can define what those rights are, we can define what freedom is, and we can say this is where it comes from, and therefore it does not rely on human authority. A lot of these abolitionists were constantly tackling human authority. They were using pamphlets and brochures. They would roll them in barrels across the neighborhoods. They would cause so many problems with their free speech that the media would attack them and censor their independent journals. Well, sounds a lot like independent media today, where everybody's getting censored if they speak their mind. It's no coincidence, because if you bring up something that's against the powers that be, those powers that be are going to hire their order followers to do their bidding and say, take these guys down because they're dissenting. They're free people. They're not order followers. Well, the order followers, it's either they free themselves or they're going to remain order followers and they're going to go against their own conscience. No, everybody's got a conscience. Everyone's got to use it. Everybody deserves to be free. Not just select people, not just this person. This person doesn't have more rights than another person. Everybody's equal. So this book goes into just those deep underlying foundations, which some may consider is really the foundations to all of human rights in general and natural law. These concepts that we've talked about before. And so my second book goes into what natural law is a little bit deeper, because it's concerning all the ideas of nature. That is my book called Sapientia Naturae, which is Latin for the wisdom of nature. This is classified under a philosophy that I've coined as naturosophy or naturesophy. The philosophy of nature is, again, if you just break it down, the wisdom of nature is the same thing as the title of my book. So I coined this term because I want people to study the nature of the universe. Anytime they say, this coconut water does this, or this coconut water is this, they're claiming to know the nature of something. Now, this is a very deep and powerful philosophy, I think, that could be used to help study anything. I've seen a lot of philosophies out there. Many of the original philosophers, Aristotle, Plato, you name it, a lot of them were trying to get to that purpose and meaning and value in the universe that kind of got lost along the way. And I've talked to many people about this, where philosophy and science today doesn't really want to look at meaning and value and purpose because you can't really study it. You know, they say it's human bias, it's emotions. How do you study emotions? And so they have a hard time with it. And so I plan to put out a presentation, which I would recommend to people, that's going to go over naturosophy and essentially the philosophy of natures, which will go into how we can study the universe and then understand natural law essentially better. Because natural intelligence is always left out of the equation when we're talking about artificial intelligence. Natural medicine is always left out of the equation when we're talking about, artificial man-made medicine, pharmaceutical medicine. And everywhere you look, we are being denatured. At every layer of society, you question, well, what about ourselves? Because at some point, it's we're going to become denatured. Who do we know who we are? And then you question why all these people have brain elements or become depressed and suicidal. It's like, are they really in the time and place for themselves? Do they understand themselves enough to hold their ground and say, this is who I am, what I want to be, I have direction, I have purpose, I'm here for a reason? Are there enough people in today's generation who are saying that? Or are they really just unsure, confused, wrapped in chaos, thinking that everything that they want to do has already been done? There's no point of them doing it. Oh, they're too bad at something. And I've encountered that many times throughout, my childhood, is seeing other kids have these feelings. And of course, I would have those feelings sometimes because, I'm among them. When they share those thoughts, it's going to influence me. When I have those thoughts, it's going to influence them. And I don't want to see that. I want to see a future where people have faith in themselves, not faith in religions, faith in governments, faith in laws, money, what have you, faith in themselves, faith into the universe or its laws, may you say, and to understand what direction they're bringing their lives. But if they don't know what actions they're taking in a day-to-day basis, they don't know what world they're creating. If they don't know what foods they're consuming on a day-to-day basis, they don't know what body they're going to be creating. It's the same exact dynamic. It's all about understanding nature, everything. And so that is the most powerful message, in my view, is, the philosophy of nature is the wisdom of nature. Nature is the answer. And so I plan to go deeper into that as I move forward. Some may say that's naturalism or transcendentalism or stoicism. I don't care what you choose to call it. It's just something I don't see being talked about. And I think it's very important because it tells us that what is real is what is natural and what is healthy. Or these ideas are all connected. And people say you can't do that. That's an appeal to nature. But what about the appeal to denature? The people who say, well, because of these natural things in nature being so bad, we need to make man-made things. What about those people? They don't seem to get a lot of attack. There's a lot of people who are skeptical about AI. Maybe that has something to do with it. The fact that they're like, wait, this is going to take over my driving. This is going to do everything for me. This is going to watch over me. It's going to think for me. Like, this sounds a little weird to me. You don't think that suspicion has anything to do with the fact that these people are naturally supposed to be of nature? That essentially these people are in tune with the universe to some extent. Something's telling them this is wrong for man to be God or to play as God. And this goes back again to the idea of slavery, where man is trying to be God or rule over other men. These ideas are going to be timeless. They're always going to persist. So the presentation I plan to do about this, I think, will make an impact for the generations to come, only because, like I said, it's something that has not been addressed. And natural law, as a very powerful topic, you've talked about, I've talked about before on many of our videos and documentaries and what have you. We see how powerful it is. It's changing people's lives. We see it's changing people's mindsets and the way they go about in their lives. that is going to make history too, but that's because it's reminding us of the basic, essential, natural needs. Like really simple, right versus wrong, which somehow, for some reason, has to be taught nowadays. Why does that have to be taught? That should be known. It's supposed to be common sense. Oh, if I jump off a cliff, it's going to hurt me. Oh, if I do this, it's a bad thing to do. But no, it's confusion. It's all up in the air. No one knows anything of what to do. It's just what's preferred, right? Oh, well, this is a preferred action. Oh, this is intolerable. Oh, this is tolerance. This is appropriate, inappropriate. What about right and wrong? So our society has gotten things very mixed up, and that confusion with it has come a lot of mental problems. So addressing these subjects can be really holistically healthy for people, not just something that is right for the world, not just right for our destiny, but right for ourselves. We see immediate effects within our own lives of health and happiness when we live in alignment to nature, which is natural law.
Absolutely. That was great. So, yes, you definitely touched on what relevance it has with everyday people. Definitely nailed that. I think that was excellent. So, thank you for that. So yeah, proceeding from there, what motivated you to write it, and how does someone go about starting that process? Because even with me, like I do videos, and people can't imagine even doing videos and editing that stuff. Like, oh my god, that's so daunting. What's the process for that? So, for me, the process of doing a book that seems very like elaborate and a lot of time. That's time involved, I'm sure. So, if you just want to go into what your motivation was for it, and then how does someone go about kind of starting that process? What can they expect in that in terms of pitfalls, maybe just any tips and tricks you have on that?
Yeah, so I put out a video for anybody who wants to put out a book for themselves. I would recommend I put out a video, says KDP tutorial. Just look up KDP tutorial on my YouTube channel or whatever channel, BitChute, Brighteon, Odyssey. I try to get on most of the video channels, and you'll see I made a tutorial for people who want to make their own paperback or hardcover book. And if you want to make a Kindle, well, you can do that too, of course, through KDP. That's Kindle Direct Publishing. It's owned by Amazon. A lot of people may not like that, but if you were to go with Ngram or some other competitors, they are still using Amazon. Amazon is still their top customer, actually, because Ngram has like millions of printers, and Amazon's got millions of printers, and they're all around the world, and they print on demand. So it's something that is definitely good if you are somebody who has a lot of knowledge and you want to put it on paper. I can speak here and I can do an interview, right? And I can deliver it through voice of mouth, but I can stutter. I can mess up on my words. I cannot deliver things as much as I would like. And putting it on paper allows it to be completely orderly and fulfilled. So I like to write books in the sense that it allows me to sit down, relax, and get everything in the order that I want to see fit. I think it's really helpful then for people who are completely new to this knowledge. They want to know what freedom is from the very basic essential ground. Well, hey, I made a really small book that goes over every single step by step definition as to how we can create freedom from the knowledge to the action. That's my Slavery Gone for Good book. And then I have one that goes into philosophy, that goes into defining what nature is, what is natural, going over the appeal to nature, going over examples of nature's different types of things. Of course, everything has a nature of its own. Nature is the all. It's a very powerful, complex topic. So anybody can take that. They can also add their own study onto it. I encourage people to take my projects. They can add on to it. Of course, right? This world is for us to share. Nature is not secluded to my words or my ideologies, the way I think about it. Definitely not. That's the world is not based on one person's subjective feelings, their own subjective experiences. No, the world has a blueprint. Our body has a blueprint, and we must understand what that blueprint is. And even if that blueprint includes some randomness, sure. It's still a blueprint. There's still that randomness. You're saying you know what it is, then clearly you're saying it's still strictly defined as something. And people don't realize those inherent contradictions sometimes in their arguments. But anyways, when it comes to writing a book, I think it's great because you can look at those contradictions. You can see where you're contradicting yourself. You can revise things. You can reflect deeper upon things. And that's why when you read a book, it's the same thing. They say, reading makes you smarter. You read, you take the time to sit down, you say, I'm going to read this chapter, I'm going to read this part, this section, and you make it a goal for yourself, and you can take your time at your own pace and reflect upon it for yourself. Instead of me just telling you, what it is or what it's about, you are actually taking it upon yourself. And then you can also use it as a reference. You can use it for research, etc. So it's something I would recommend for people. And it took me about a month or so for the Slavery Gone for Good book. And about a month for the Sapientia Naturae book, but that's because I spent a lot of time on it. When you have a project, when you have goals, and you really want to get it done, and your mind is constantly thinking about it all throughout the day, as content creators usually are, you constantly want to keep working on it. So it's something, though, just take your time, your own pace, just writing or reading, either way. Something I would encourage you do. KDP is completely free to use. I mean, come on. You can literally, we're in the 21st century. People can publish books now for free. You can have on-demand printing. You don't have to have a whole box of like hundreds of books just laying around your house. Like, hey, do you want a book? No, you can be like, all right, just go to this link. Or scan this QR code, and they can just get it, and boom, it goes to the house. I mean, it's amazing what technology has done for us, but that allows us to do this interview, for people to do their own research. That is what freedom is. And if you want to keep that freedom, it's about understanding what that freedom is such as the tools of technology itself. Use that technology to your benefit. Use your nature or lose your nature. That's how it goes. If you don't use your conscience, what are you using? You're not using your morality. What are you using? It's like every day you should be making moral decisions, should you not? What is right and wrong across food decisions or actions, everything. Should I be in this environment? Is this environment toxic for me or not? Is this relationship toxic for me or not? If I don't ask these questions on a day-to-day basis, where am I going to get myself? So clearly I have to have some sense of direction, some sense of purpose, and a book can help you. It can even just be a journal. I would recommend people journal for themselves. It's a very powerful tool I've always used since I was very young. I've always done that since I was about 11. And one day maybe I'll just compile some of my writings and put them up for people on the internet. Be like, hey, this is some parts of my journal. Because, many different writers have done it in the past. Larkin Rose has done it too for himself. Why not? So you can see my progression, how I've got to be where I am. I'm transparent. I show you who I am. I talk about what I'm doing, what projects I have. Unfortunately, sometimes I like to make my projects surprises, but then once in a while it's like, oh, well, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. It's like, oh man, I want to keep it surprises because I think it's fun, it's exciting, and you have to make it fun or exciting. Some people, it's not always for them to produce content, to write books, but you got to find what works for you. The point is that at least try doing something. If you see, like I said before, if you have a moral obligation to put something out there, then do it. Just don't do something that you don't want to do. You still have to have some level of input as to what you want to do. You can't do something you don't want to do. Okay, even if the information is really important, you got to find a medium that really works for you within your environment, within your schedule. Now, if you have to work around other things within your life, say, well, I got to do less of this, I got to have less fun to do more of this work, you might have to make some necessary sacrifices, but that's for you to figure out. Okay, that's your destiny, your choice as to what you want to bring with you into the future generations to come. You have to realize how powerful you are as a human being. One person can change the minds of all these people. The fact that one person can lead millions of soldiers into a battlefield should tell you that one person putting out content on the channel can make a pretty big difference. And you're not telling people what to do, or you're not telling people what to think. So you're even more powerful than that one person who's dictating to others what to do. You're saying, well, here's the knowledge, here it is, and you can make your own mind. Use the tools to your benefit. Technology is a tool. Is it the most natural thing? No. We have to be careful with technology. But if it's in our hands, if it's freedom, if it is through the use of freedom, that is what it's meant to be. The internet is sort of a reflection. Think of a video game. It's like, wow, this looks so real. Oh, look at this movie. It looks so real. We want to keep making it realer and realer. Why? Because we're basically making projections. And when we watch a movie, we want our emotions to be similar to the characters we're feeling, or we want to relate to them in some way. It's because we're creating these projections and reflections of ourselves and putting them out into the world constantly on a day-to-day basis. And so the technology allows us to do that in a very powerful way. It could be very dangerous, but it could also be very helpful. That's the use of power. The most powerful knowledge in the world could be used for good or for bad. Really good and really bad. The most powerful nations in the world can be used for really bad evil, but also really good good. I mean, it just depends on what they do with that power. But what is a nation really? It's just a bunch of people who individually choose to partake in those powers, in those quote unquote power positions, which, naturally they have the same power as everyone else. And, I call that natural powers. Some people may call it rights. You may say it's because we all have a conscience. We all have hearts. We all have brains. We all can breathe for ourselves. And as long as I'm not claiming to breathe for you and I'm not claiming to take your heart or take your brain, I'm not claiming to be your owner. I'm not claiming to do a violation against nature, ultimately. Not a violation of harm, not a violation of action, none of that. A violation on nature itself. Ownership, property, really basic, essential ways of understanding our rights can be made just from looking at our nature rather than looking at actions alone or harm alone. There's much more than that. It's our nature ultimately. Again, I can't breathe for you. Frederick Douglass said it best when he did this long quote talking about how, I can't breathe for you, I can't walk for you, I can't eat for you. He goes through the whole list of things. And he's like, and I left you with what you owned, and I left myself with what I owned, therefore I see no wrong part of the transaction. That's understanding rights, I'd say, to the deepest essence, is just the nature of human beings. And if you look at most people who define rights, especially objectivists or a lot of modern thinkers of natural law, they will say rights stem from the nature of man. All the past natural law teachers have also said the same thing. And there's a reason why we call it natural law, because the laws stem from nature. No coincidence. So if people want to write their books, I mean, great. I encourage them to. There's always something more to share. And there's a lot of information here, as you can tell. There you can go into rights, you can go into nature, you can go into slavery, you can go into a whole bunch of things. I just tackled slavery. That's just one thing. Just imagine all the other things that I mentioned that you can go into that I have not tackled enough of.
Yeah, absolutely. That was very powerful. So thank you very much for that. I did find the KDP self-published video on BitChute, so I did put that link in the description or in the comment section, so if people want to check that out. Looks very interesting. I'm very grateful that you put that out. Because like when I do some interviews with content creators, that's some of the stuff I ask. I try to get some more of the nitty-gritty details so that it's not as more of like a just some vague concept to people. So the fact that you took that initiative as well, because you saw that kind of need, it's excellent. So thank you for
Yeah.
that. I'm looking for. I actually want to watch that very much. So
Yeah, step-by-step tutorial for anybody
yeah,
who's completely new to bookmaking. What programs to use, what websites to go to. Try and make it as simple as possible. And if anybody has any questions, they of course can reach out to me. I want people to be producing content or to share their own feelings, their own, just observations of the world around them.
yeah, exactly. It's yeah, that's great. I can't wait to watch that. It's gonna be awesome. So thank you so much for that and making that video too. So this isn't part of what we were gonna talk about, but just thinking about just how well spoken you are, just your ability to break down things really simply. Just have you always been a good speaker, or were you like nervous? Like I used to be super nervous as a kid, even leading up to adulthood and all that stuff. And I was gonna make a channel about video gaming, and that didn't end up happening. I was like, screw that, whatever. But then I just started just doing stuff on my phone and posting it and just getting more traction that way, building confidence in that sense. But like for you, you're still so young and you already got all this kind of charisma and confidence, and your ability to speak is really good. So just if you want to just give like a little backstory about like the progression from just like from starting out or whatever else to starting to make content and all that stuff.
Everybody needs practice. That's first and foremost. I mean, like you can be the best speaker in the world, but you still need practice. You need to understand your audience. Like even if you know how to speak, you still need to know your audience, know what you're putting out, and be cautious. Take a step back once in a while and say, is this content good? Is this something I would watch? Is this something that I want to have out there? I can look at my old videos and be like, man, that's not good anymore. I want to take it down. But no, it's like, keep it down, keep it up there. It shows my progression over time, or at least I see that I can make improvements. It's not like it's totally bad and it's like, oh, I just want to take it down, but I see there's improvements I can make. And those improvements you can see within your own journal too. Like I said, if you journal your life over time or just your thoughts, you can see that as well. Your writing improves, your reflection improves. You find that if you have to write something down or if you need to take note of something, you can do that easier. If you see there's a problem and you feel that there's a disturbance and you have nobody to talk to at that time, a journal also helps. A journal helps for a bunch of things, whether you're journaling your food, your diet. Journals, I think, are really helpful, and so I think that helped prep me for the beginning, especially for when I was starting to do this whole speaking thing. Sorry for my camera getting blurry. But it's more than that. So I've never been an extrovert. Basically, I've always been more of an introvert, I guess, since I was very young, and everybody would be like, "Why are you so shy? Why do you not talk?" So I used to just sit there and observe everything. So maybe people think I'm very outspoken just because I seem pretty loud now and I'm voicing my opinion a lot and going out there. But like I said, it's like the world is the way it is because people are not, because they think they'd be embarrassed, or they're, oh, I don't know if I can do this. Oh, I don't know if I have enough knowledge. I've reached a point where it's like, yeah, I understand generally how people are thinking. I generally understand why the world is the way it is because of human ignorance, because of human fear. And therefore, I'm not just going to sit back and just have fun either, or just do my thing. I'm going to speak up where I think it is due if I think other people can be taking the initiative. So I first have to, however, walk the talk myself. I have to observe myself. And I know we might talk about shadow work and that kind of goes into that. But journaling definitely helps in that process. I had a guild in 2016 in World of Warcraft from 2013 to 2016. That helped with my conversation skills and management skills because I had over 3,000 people in that guild in the video game that I had to constantly manage, with a lot of drama and constant having to make sure things get done, making sure to set certain ranks. I had a website dedicated to that, which you can still access at maybe it's nitrocee.wix.com/M10 battleground. I know it's like really complicated, but basically, that is the website for a guild I had called Battleground, which you can find on my old YouTube channel called Coconut TV, which crazy enough had like 9,000 views recently because I put out just a random video going over a streamer and Lord of the Rings Online. Anyways, gaming unfortunately gets a lot more views than talking about, real world problems, because that's where we're at in society, where people prioritize things that are not so important because they'd rather be slaves in their entertainment, their peaceful slavery, rather than their dangerous freedom. I've realized that, it's like, I don't want to just be playing games. Now, if I play games, I'm like, yeah, I don't want to do that that much. I don't feel that productive. I'm very obsessed with productivity. I have to usually be doing something productive at least every single day. Otherwise, I feel like I'm not doing enough. And once you create that mentality for yourself and you constantly practice and do the interviews and put out videos, and like you said, you expressed your thoughts and you sort of made like small videos. I did the same thing. It builds your confidence and you get used to it, creates a routine, and everything just improves overall. Right. But you can still take the time to reflect. So when I was young and just thinking about everything and staying super quiet, it did allow me to observe more of the world around me, rather than constantly being voicing my opinion all the time, rather than constantly just getting out there, being annoying, loud, and blah blah blah. Like, no, it's really sitting down with yourself, if you're conscious, observing. Well, this person's saying this person's saying that. Therefore, they're thinking about these two things, and this is the reason why they're arguing. And then I observe the way that they use their hand movements, the way they have their speech. And in 2016, when Trump's energy kind of came into the room with politics, it kind of brought me with it, because that energy is what I was attracted to. Not necessarily Trump himself or politics. I never really was a fan of politics, because my message was nature is the answer. But I saw that energy and I was like, this is interesting. And then you see there's hundreds of thousands of people following these select figures and putting them on pedestals like, oh my gosh, this person has to be president, right? So I would go to Trump rallies. I had like Trump shirts and Trump water bottles. I had all this stuff because I was a statist in 2016. I believed in the legitimacy of government, of politics. And I knew everything about the guy. I literally can defend him on any single topic at the time. And I thought, hey, if I were to have a content creation channel at the time, I probably could have, been really big up there with all these other right wingers. I was working with a guy called Niski on YouTube. He still has his channel, but it's NTV with an American flag. He's got like 6,000 subscribers now with no videos. But the Trump campaign basically stole all his videos and they use it for their campaign even to this day, without giving him credit. So nobody even knows that he's like the one who made a lot of his stuff. And I was helping him with that. We were even working on making a populist platform. We were using the term populist before populist is now like all of a sudden a buzzword. Now everybody's like, oh, he's a populist. Oh, I'm a populist. This is cool. Like back then, I was like one of the only people who I saw using the term because Niski and myself, Nicholas Key, we were doing research about it. I have to still get in touch with the guy. I don't know how he's doing, but he went through like a weight loss transformation and all this stuff. He was involved in independent media. I think he realized how much he fell for Trump as well. And he just hasn't since spoken about it. He's gotten probably pretty busy in real life, but it just shows you how one person can make an impact like that. This person on YouTube who not many people know about put out content that I saw, and it has got so much traction, and that now like campaigns and political figures are taking their videos. I mean, people don't realize what goes on behind the scenes, but all of this sort of also just led me in the direction, right? I followed everybody in independent media, mostly health first because I'm a health coach. So I did a lot of health stuff, naturalnews.com and Green Med Info, and I had like a whole list, and I started doing health news content. If you look at my channel, all my old videos was about health news. So I figured I'd be like the only person in independent media who would go over health news. So I kept that up for several months, and then it was pretty popular. People who discovered me was like, yeah, this is really good content, because I was going over like all sorts of cures and really cool stuff that nobody was really covering, and studies and getting them from a bunch of different sources. I didn't keep up with that because I just changed my priorities. It's like, hey, am I political? No, I'm not. Am I health-based? No, I'm not. Even then, you still have to be flexible and willing to change and reflect upon what you're doing. If you get too stuck in one direction, you're not going to be willing to change where you maybe must. Okay, you don't want to get stuck with the same terminology. There's a lot of people in politics right now who put out thousands of videos. Do you think tomorrow they're going to be like, yeah, everything I said is a lie? Like, no, they're not. They built their brand on a certain ideology. For them to escape that, even if they gain enough knowledge, they're still not going to escape it, because they're wrapped in their identity, their ego. Okay, and so I've always had this attachment to nature as sort of the relay back to common sense or common ground, back to nature, so to speak. So it would allow me to kind of become sensible. If I was too long on technology, too long on independent media, now I don't even watch independent media, because I realize it's all consumerism, or at least it's all feeding into the common day news media. I want to talk about philosophy, or even better than that, I want to cause conversations myself with people in real life. I want to get together different networks of people who are actually creating change right now and see what we can do right now. And that is what I'm doing. I'm bringing people together online to create that action and say, well, we first need to be coordinated first. And I'm bringing people in real life together, say, well, hey, we need to be coordinated first. And instead of you being on this side and you being on that side, and you saying, well, this is our organization, this is our organization, how about you see you both have the same goal, and that is freedom. Okay, so libertarians over there, and Republicans over there, and left-wingers over there, and Moms for Liberty, and all these other nonprofits. I mean, hey, you guys have a goal, right? And it's all freedom. So why you guys all disagree with it? Can you not define what freedom is? Not a single one of them can define it. And then it's like, oh, well, no wonder why they can disagree all the time, because they don't even have the simple, basic foundation of rights or freedom. So everything else is just up in the air and floating all over the place, until somebody comes in with a great suit and jacket and looks cool enough and sounds cool enough with a nice speech, with enough energy perhaps, or enough slogans to get the next popular vote. I'm not about the game. I realized it was a game. I realized politics was all a game, that Trump was lying. When he said he had no funders, he had funders. Sheldon Adelson, kingpin. he funds people all the time, and everything was starting to become apparent to me. It's like, this is a lie. And even if he did do what he did, why are we so reliant on one person to change the world for us? This is our world. We say it's our government, we the people. Why are we so reliant on one person to change the whole world for us, our whole country? It shouldn't be that way, because it's not supposed to be that way. We are in control of our lives naturally, and we are supposed to be in control of our communities naturally ourselves. We're supposed to take charge where we see fit. If there's a problem, we take it into our own hands, and we teach people. We don't just rely on law to tell people what to do. We teach people. There's actually a need for education, which we don't see in today's world, if constantly we have to run it by legality. Instead of morality, legality becomes morality. It becomes all education. Oh, you're not allowed to teach this because of this law. Oh, you're not allowed to give this medicine because of this law. Oh, you can't do this because of this law. Somehow this system, which is all based on man's opinion, has taken over all the world. So me through my speaking abilities, it's improved through watching independent media, through watching a lot of different content creators over the years. But like I said, I've kind of laid low on that. And I think a lot of content creators do the same thing over time, is they stop consuming other people's content and they start producing more of their own because they realize how important that is. And that's why every time I do an interview, I'm constantly encouraging people to do that work on their own, because we need more people who do that. Again, the very problem with the world is people not thinking for themselves, not putting out the content for themselves, not using their own conscience, thinking about what is right and wrong, and making those decisions consciously without an authority constantly having to tell them what is right and wrong for them, their own actions, their own life. It's like, can a doctor tell you exactly what you should do with your life? No, only you control your life. They can influence you, they can help you, maybe like a celebrity, and this is why people put them on pedestals. But once you give those celebrities power and say, well, they have more rights, they can own over me, they control everything here, it's like, no, that's not influence anymore. That's authority. And that authority doesn't naturally exist in nature. They're not a real leader, not somebody who people aspired to. They're somebody who deceptively wanted you to follow them for their own fame, for their own influence, for their own power, their own ego. A real leader wants you to be a leader too. A real leader wants everybody to rise with them, and they show by example. They go in the front lines. They don't stay back and say, oh, every soldier go over there and fight these people overseas that you barely know. They say, I'm going to lead the charge and do it myself and show you what needs to get done. And how many politicians are really going to go overseas and do that? Zero. How many politicians are going to say, I want to become a politician, but I don't want to take the paycheck that comes with it? I mean, just that alone, so many politicians don't look at, because so many people, the people that support these politicians, do not look at that. That's why the people are not holding the politicians accountable. So the politicians can remain in ignorance and the people can remain in ignorance. They're both in ignorance of each other. They're both disaligned to their actual nature, because how are you supposed to know nature or know thyself without knowledge? You can't. How are you supposed to know what actions to take without knowledge? Knowledge is the traction between everything that is good, natural, and healthy. Without knowledge, you can't have any of it. And if you say, well, knowledge is based on belief, opinion, or what somebody thinks, well, then is it really knowledge or is it belief? Because if I believe I can jump off a cliff and it doesn't hurt me, is still objective consequences to that action. I'm going to get hurt inevitably, because that is knowledge. What is true? What is real? What is natural? But if people say, well, that's all just opinion, it's all just bias, whatever, it's like, okay, well, then try jumping off a cliff. But you're not going to do it because you know it's going to hurt you. You're not just believing in it. You don't need belief for that. You know it's going to hurt you. So over time, like I said, I just understood how people were speaking and the way they broke things down. And yeah, now I'm using hand movements. I'm kind of used to just picking up a lot of social cues as well. So I kind of brought it with me. I'd say the good parts and the bad parts, and kind of deciphered and found myself, because again, you have to do that self-reflection process. You don't want to imitate others, their way of doing things, their wording, their presentation style. You can take influence, but don't try to be me. It's like, you can take influence from nature, but don't try to be nature. Don't try to be God. You can take influence from God and try to be in alignment and be in harmony with it, but you don't want to become that and say, I am God, I'm the second coming. Oh, let's see how many times that has been tried in history. I don't know, Waco, and of course even more. But regardless, you see that there's a lot of problems with faith, with beliefs, with religions. And when we get clear on what we need to do in this life, that relies on knowledge. So I'm sorry to tie it into more of a philosophical lesson, but over time, as a kid growing up today's world in American school system, you're taught that, no morality. I'm not taught any morality. I had to learn that from my parents. I had to learn that from my own family. So I had to learn a lot of this by myself. And so I had to watch a lot of independent media. I had to get influenced by them, partly because they were really helpful for my own mind. My own mind had a lot of questions, and I was like, nobody's asking these questions. I see there's ingredient lists, and they're like hundreds of ingredients long on like a simple ingredient, like on a simple food item. I'm like, why is there hundreds of ingredients on this food item? And I'm like, nobody knows any of these ingredients. So I just started researching them, and I was like, okay, well, here are people who do understand it. What else are they putting out? oh, wow, looks like they're putting out all this content, questioning everything. These are the people that I like, because they're going to find things that other people don't find, and they're actually changing the world because they're getting people to think differently. How do you have innovation? By introducing something new to something that was old and already pre-existent. You're crossing the barrier and saying, I'm not going to get stuck in this box. So that's what I did. I escaped the box by asking questions, and I found people along the way, and it carved me out to who I am. And of course, I also did theater a little bit. That doesn't contribute to how much I'm dramatic. I hope not to be too dramatic, but I was in theater for a while with my family. We would do plays together, and that probably helped a little bit too with speech communications and presence, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a lot of good stuff on in that response. Holy moly! I know you touched upon journaling again for the second time, which yes, I want to reiterate that is a very, very powerful thing to do. That's what I personally did from like what March 2019 until July 2021, and then I kind of fell off of that because of my depression and my suicidal mindset that I had at the time. I didn't want to write anymore because it was just too much for me. But it really, I want to get back into it because I know it really did help out. Because I was basically writing like what I did throughout the day and all that stuff, and a lot of the consistency was porn that I saw, and it was definitely in contradiction with my content creation and what I was all about and what I was, like things that were fulfilling for me. The content creation was fulfilling. This was not. It was an addiction, and I could see that plain as day, and it just kept building and building and building until yada yada yada. I've already made videos about it, but yeah, journaling is super important. It can help you just figure things out or see inconsistencies in your life, or just it just if you have a lot of thoughts, you're really stressed out, maybe just putting it on paper and just releasing it in that way, in that kind of form, keeping it in a book, that could be very beneficial. And then I know, as you're talking about with being more observant as a kid. You didn't speak out too much. I was exactly the same way. I was very shy as a kid, very nervous. I didn't speak out too much, but I did do a lot of observing. And, like you were saying, like you would see one person say something and hear another person say another thing, and you could see where they were kind of getting their lines crossed and not really understanding each other. And that was good for like truth discovery, or just like keeping that like unbiased viewpoint and just being more observant, straddling that line between teacher and student, not just being willy-nilly gullible, and then not being hard-headed, what do you call it? Just resilient to
Cognitive
something, where you just like
dissonance.
dismiss it right away. I think you have the word. What would you say?
Cognitive dissonance. Yeah.
Yeah, cognitive dissonance, and just yeah, just not being open to anything. So that's very important. And I know I said this story before, but like my parents would always fight. My dad would say one story, my mom would say another story completely different, and I'd be like, okay, well, I'm a kid, I have no idea. This was like in the 70s or in the 80s. I can't verify this, so I'll take in this, and I'll just sit on it. I'll entertain the ideas, and then if something comes along later on, I'll figure it out. Maybe I'll have more information. And sometimes I did, but that helped me definitely with truth discovery. Like I was able to take in different ideas and entertain them, not just dismiss them right away. So I think, yeah, being one of those quiet people, I think that's a huge benefit to some extent, because you can, if you have like, I guess, the proper upbringing and all that stuff, then you can really build off of that and take a lot of those cool positive traits and then extrapolate that to then becoming more open and more of an extrovert, and still having that observation and that mindset. I think that's excellent. And then you made a good point about um, like when you brought up like you doing health stuff in the beginning, and you saw that there was a gap in a lot of content. Like you were absorbing content. You said, okay, there's something missing here. I'm going to add something because I know that this isn't being talked about very much. That is a key. So if someone is interested in creating content or doing anything like that, that's a great starting point. Just think about all the people that you watch, who like look at all your interests. Maybe there's a hole in some of their stuff that they're not talking about, they're not discussing. And that's something I try to do. So, because I've watched James Corbett, I've watched Last American Vagabond, like you said before, Dan Dix, World Alternative Media, We Are Changed. I've watched all these people, but a lot of people aren't talking about like shadow work like Mark Passio does. So I take in all the information that they have, and then some of his
Right.
information, I kind of put it together. I put my own like personal stuff in there, give my own anecdotes and my own stories, try to help
Beautiful.
inspire people. That's why it's just my name. Like it's not. And then, like you're saying, like some of your content changed, it evolved. You didn't just stay you didn't paint yourself into a corner like you were talking about with some of these independent people. It's more of an evolution. It's not just a one direction and that's it. It's so like for me, like I just did maybe like whatever, like certain products that I would use, I would recommend them, or just talk about gardening or whatever else. But then I just got into interviews because I got asked to be interviewed, and then so then I got into that. So now I'm doing mostly that for the most part. But yeah, I think that's excellent. And then you mentioned another point, coordination, about all these different groups being supposedly separate, but they do have that same common goal. Everyone wants clean air, clean food, clean water, security. You know, they want to be healthy. Everyone wants that. No one's gonna say that I want to be poor, fat, and unhealthy, and my life's in danger every single day. No one's gonna say that. Like everyone wants that stuff. So it's all about understanding your rights, your freedoms. And when I went to like a vaccine mandate rally in early January, February, I said, we hold all these truths to be self-evident. All men are created equal. We are endowed by a creator with certain inalienable rights. And everyone's clapping and cheering. And then I say, well, who here can give the definition of a right? And then it's just dead silence. And so I say like a right's like action you can take that doesn't cause harm to anybody. So I broke it down, but no one was talking about that. Everyone's just talking about, oh, we got to take this person out or vote this person in, or they said a lot of stuff I agreed with, but it's just the root issue is not being solved. And so like the root fundamental, like just the definitions of the words that we're using, that's so important. And that's why we have that huge like divide between people. It's just because of the lack of understanding. And so I mean it's really that simple. And then when you're talking about man's law, man's opinion, that's a great way to break it down. It is just man's opinion. It's just our little like how we feel today. Like you were saying before, you're saying like whatever's preferable for the moment. And then when you're talking about taking time, I'm not sure if it was right now or before with a different response, but when you're talking about, sacrifices are going to have to be made at some point, like, cause like right now I'm spending a certain amount of time doing X, Y, and Z, but if I want to create content, I'm gonna have to sacrifice a little bit here and there, not game, not watch stupid crap, not do whatever it is, but take time and dedicate myself to this. Cause I know that it is fulfilling. I definitely know it's enjoyable. I love editing because I try to make it funny. I try to add some humor to it when I'm doing some of my editing. I think it's hilarious, and I just rewatch it. It's people were swearing in my videos, so I censor it out, and I just laugh every time I censor it because the beep or whatever. Like I love it, and I just got to get back
sorry,
into
I can't do that for you. I'm sorry, I can't swear for you.
Yeah, no, it's perfect because I don't do much swearing at all either. I rarely I don't try to do that very much. But yeah, then you're like leaders build others up and then lead by example at the same time. So you can totally tell that we're not getting that right now. So that's what a true leader is. And people are like, oh, like, because if you talk about we don't need government or whatever else, people are like, oh, well, what about the Indian tribes? They had a leader. It's like, it's not the same thing. It's not even close to the same thing. It's the wisdom that they had, and it's the way that they presented themselves, and they held themselves to a higher standard and helped inspire others. And they had a lot of knowledge that they could pass on. And people understood that. It wasn't where they were coerced into doing it. But yeah, you said a lot of good points. I didn't make notes on all of it, but it was all so excellent. So thank you so much for that. It was really, really good. So I'm going to skip ahead just to this other question because I was going to ask you, how do you keep yourself from getting burnt out? Because I know that you're producing content a lot. I'm not sure what you do, if this is just your full-time thing or if this is just a part-time thing. I think I remember you saying it's like a full-time thing now. But I might be wrong. But either way, like if you can just give people some tips or like just insight on your own life, how you help yourself or stop yourself from getting burnt out, finding that balance and all that stuff.
Yeah, I don't think for anyone who does this content, it's all the way full time because you're going to need breaks anyways. And if you have any experience with talking about these deeper philosophical, natural law type of questions to people in person, it could get pretty exhausting talking with them. The first times I did, I'm like, holy moly, just having these conversations. It's like you're getting some sort of energy from the universe and it's pouring into you. When you're talking about this, because you're very passionate, you see that there's a lot of important things to mention. Again, information that people don't know about, and so you start talking about it with people, and you get this conversation, and they can't wrap things around their own brain. They're making contradictions, and you have to be able to spot it. You have to be able to ask the right questions, and it requires a lot of patience and vigilance that will take a lot of energy out of you. But like you said, you made it really good point. What you mentioned, it is long-term fulfilling. very fulfilling, I would say, because you're fulfilling that purpose, not just in the universe, but in yourself. We are, as human beings, supposed to listen to the world around us and find out what we should do. That is the whole point of knowledge, the whole point of science, the whole point of religion, why it was created, or all these things, because they're all supposed to help us. I mean, when people are feeling down, they're going to go to science, religion, medicine. It's like, it's kind of obvious. Why? Because they have the knowledge, they have the experts, but the experts does not equal the knowledge, but people sometimes equate the two. So you can either think, okay, well, the experts will help me lead to the knowledge, but am I taking the knowledge in for myself? Because that, at the end of the day, still has to be done. I can be the one that takes in the knowledge. Only I can have that knowledge if it's myself and I am taking that knowledge and bring it within my own life. Only I can do that. So your question was about burning out, which is a really, really big question. I laugh at because I still get burned out to this day because put a lot of work into things. And I think anybody who puts a lot of work into things, they're going to get burnout some degree. It's not like that bad. It's just your body saying, well, you need to relax, you need to take it easy. And it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to complain with that. But it can take a toll if you do push it too far. I was doing 6-hour streams like 3 times a week, in addition to creating content. And those 6-hour streams, I would not eat or drink anything. So I would end up vomiting and it's all sorts of things. And then I ended up with crazy headaches that would lead into vomiting. So you can consider those migraines because they were consistent. And so I found ways to treat that through, again, knowledge and through my understanding of nutrition, etc. And of course, I talked about it with naturopathic doctors as well. Frankincense is something I mentioned to you. Frankincense could be pretty useful. Just take like a little bit of this and you can put it on the palm of your hand. We'll do a little demonstration. You can do cupping therapy, right? So I'm just getting some drops here and do cupping therapy. Just breathe it in, right? You can do that before an interview or after or what have you. It helps relax you. Because I'm very energetic, or at least I like to put a lot of effort into things. If I'm doing a stream, I feel like I'm still recording a video. So I put too much energy into it, and that's why I ended up with those problems. Most people may not have those problems, so maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm just strange, right? But also it has to do with other things. So everybody's different, right? Everybody's in different environments. How much you go outside, how much you are not looking at the screen, how intently, deeply you're looking at the screen. If I'm writing books on the screen, I'm typing, I'm looking, I'm reading. It takes a lot of eye strain sometimes, and you may not notice that you're doing it. Minerals can help a lot. Trace minerals, in particular, fulvic acid or the stuff that you take, if you want to mention it to people. There's many different types of mineral supplements out there. Yours is a really good one. I take fulvic acid, which I'm pretty sure yours has as well. So it's something that can be really helpful for people just because minerals, your body is depleting yourself of minerals constantly, especially when you're being exposed to technology. And our food supply does not have enough minerals in it because all the soil is depleting. So even if you're consuming like the best of best foods, you're still not probably getting as much minerals as you need. And it's not likely that people are consuming bone broth every day or animal organs, which I think we'll get into. But these things are like ancestral foods that have a lot of really micronutrients that we just don't get anymore. So the fulvic acid and taking some of these supplements will help complement our diet. Complement supplement. I'll get into that matter later in time. But supplementation as such means that you are missing something within your diet and therefore you need to add something in to supplement. So just something to keep in mind. You want to try to mostly get your nutrients from plant-based sources. It helps a lot to have a lot of fats in your diet when it comes to brain health and function. Something I notice greatly for energy. Something I notice greatly for mental health in general is B vitamins and the fats that you can get from really high quality fats. But I'm drinking coconut water right now, which has electrolytes, right? Electrolytes are something that you can also get within fulvic acid because minerals and salts go into your water. They all kind of work the same way in the sense that you're replenishing your body of something that is really essential that electronics is sort of depleting your body of. Your body will definitely appreciate that. Unfortunately, in order to deal with the unnatural things in our lives, we have to add more of the natural things to sort of counteract, right? So that is a choice on behalf of yourself. I noticed I had to do it and it helps a lot. People will take magnesium citrate before bed. And that helps a ton if you get headaches or migraines from computer usage, for example. And so you can do that. Magnesium citrate is a powder you can get. And of course, I think they make other forms of it too, but I use the powder and get a really high bioavailable form. And you just put that in water. You could drink that before bed. It helps get some minerals in. But the fulvic acid, if you drink that throughout the day, you're getting everything you need. So magnesium, a little bit extra, could help when it comes to headaches and my situation of burnout. Just figured to put that out there because I'm still going to struggle with burnout here and there, depending on how much I do and what I'm doing and everything else within my life. So, but these things have definitely helped tremendously. I wouldn't get any more headaches anymore after I did this. And I have a lot of other techniques, such as taking the frankincense oil, putting some on my forehead, on the back of my neck, putting binaural beats on, which is a type of frequency that can help with headaches as well. Talking to yourself and asking yourself 3 questions. What's the size? What does my headache look like? Like, what is it? What shape is it? What color is it? And where is it? Constantly over and over again in your head. Lay down on the side of the headache, get some rest, really reflect, deep breathe. There's a lot of strategies like that. Drinking water, playing with water, the sounds of water, because your body really wants water. And then drinking that water and having positive feelings around water. Water is a very powerful tool. A lot of people in the new age sort of scene will uphold water for that reason. I don't think, they're wrong to do so. Water is mostly our environment. It's our bodies, it's our world. And so there's a lot of unique healing powers of water. There's even therapies totally designed out of water. I'll have more content about that to come, I promise. I've been promising that for years on my channel, health content, but it will come eventually, I promise. It's just, unfortunately, there are more important things, such as our freedom to live to begin with, our freedom to have these choices to begin with, our freedom to even use natural medicine to begin with. And all the doctors and all the practitioners around the world do not look at freedom. I'm like, hello, your practice is being directly affected by this. You can't use this medicine because you just told me that the FDA won't let you, because these agencies won't let you, because of these certain laws and regulations. And you can try to run for office, you can try voting for the politician, but how much is that going to do for you? We've been trying to do it for over 300 years, And how much time do you have for that? And the doctor's gonna be like, yeah, I got no time. So the best thing they can do is help educate other people and maybe get health coaches within their practice, start talking a bit more about nutrition, and have more individualized coaching with people, addressing within their own life things that need to be addressed, talking things through, asking questions. That will lead them toward the path of all truth discovery. It's just asking questions and trying to do your best. So I got out of burnout from just researching, taking the time to reflect, being out in nature, of course, top physician, and drinking water with the minerals and using essential oils and magnesium.
Yeah, excellent. I think that was great. So thank you for that. Like, I definitely want to get more information, even if we get off air, like just talking about the magnesium, where you get that and all
Sure.
that stuff. And I know that you mentioned, or you're talking about what I'm taking. So I know I've done this interview before and I've talked about it before, but yeah, like Shilajit, this is the company I interviewed. So I personally get it from here. You don't have to get it from here, but I know that they do lab testing on it. I've
That's good.
noticed tremendous benefits in my brain, the way my brain was functioning. Also just strength, endurance with like physical activity. Like I just yesterday I was at the gym. I was doing full incline on the treadmill. I did that for 35 minutes, whether it was 3 miles an hour to 6 miles an hour. And I did that for 35 minutes. And then I still went and did some leg presses. I put like 445s on each side. So I did like 360 pounds, and I'm still doing that. I didn't feel depleted. So like you're talking about with the fulvic acid and all these minerals and all that other stuff, like I totally can attest to that. Just
Yeah.
it's definitely made a big difference. There's a lot of benefits to this. My hair coming back thicker. I'm gaining more hair. Because I was starting to definitely lose this last year. If you see my interview, when I did the interview with this gentleman, even earlier this year, it was a lot thinner than it is now. So I definitely noticed something with this. Excellent, helps my immune system, whatever else. Yeah. So in terms of when I was talking about burnout, that was part of it. But just in terms of like if you're creating content all the time, do you ever get that like that sense of I just need to take a rest from this? Like,
Yes.
and then because I've taken like short hiatuses
Yeah.
because I burn myself out to the point where I just feel like depleted, even if not in like a mineral way, but just like in a, I guess, in a personal mental state.
you always got to be happy with what you're doing, right? I generally am fulfilled. I got family and friends and places to go, and that is my break time. It's always my break time. So that, and there's a lot to do other than produce video content. So it keeps me busy and keeps my brain off the computer and such. And of course, I still have to make some configurations within my own life. I think everybody does. They're always working on something. It's always good to have a goal. And as we said this before, journal and sort of write down what those goals are could help too, or just get those thoughts out on paper. But generally, those goals are going to stick with you. They will reappear in dreams, which I've gotten many times. But and I've talked about before in other interviews, like my social life is something that I would definitely want to improve in real life. Even though I know tons of people, I'm saying people my age. It's like I'm talking to people who are like 50s, 60s. I'm like, all right, you're doing great work, and hey, you're very receptive to what I have to hear sometimes. Of course, not everybody, but it still would be nice to have some more young minds. And I think it's great that there's a lot of people in the One Great Work Network who a lot of young minds, people who are interested in this. And I didn't expect to get into any of this, and a lot of them got into it. So, yeah, I got burnout many times before, and I'm probably still going to get some, but I definitely have a lot less because of what I've been doing. And the more you just stay in tune with that and take breaks as you see fit. I'm not going to say I take breaks here and there. I mean, if I'm going to listen to my body and I'm going to decide when I should take a break, and everybody should listen to their body to decide what they should do with anything. That's going to be their top messenger. Again, nature is the answer. You may have a billion ideas in your own head of what you think you should do, but if your health is down, everything else is down. You can't do anything. So you have to pay attention to your health first and foremost. And you can't have any excuses against it. It has to be priority, because if you put it on the side burner, it will put you on the side burner. Nature does not care about you and your feelings. It's going to sustain itself, and if you don't work with it, it will destroy you. That's how nature works. It's a violent process. People say enlightenment is a violent, destructive process. Enlightenment, even though it's like, oh, I'm holy, oh, like, no, it's not really how it works. But it's destructive because you have to get past your inner traumas and fears and the shadow work, and you have to really sit down with yourself and address that. Sit with your conscience, as you may have to if you realize you're contributing to immoral systems of fear, if you're contributing to negative environments or bad things in general. So yeah, like you said, you had to overcome addictions. You have to kind of address that. That is a matter of finding what's negative amidst your conscience. Your body's telling you, it's giving you all the signs that you need of what food you need, what nutrients you need. And you're likely going to go for sugar, if you have a mineral deficiency or a salt deficiency. You're going to want salt, right? So your body is going to tell you this. If you eat something really cooked, you're going to probably want something more raw, or maybe you need a balance between the two, or maybe you ate so many fats, your body's like, well, I need some sugar, some carbohydrates. It's going to tell you. And so you want to listen to it, because it's really important that you do that. Otherwise, you can end up in a lot of different scenarios that you might be unsure of. Like they'll say, you'll go through the keto flu if you go on keto for a while. It's like, okay, well, maybe that's because you're transitioning to it too fast. And you got to be careful with what you're doing. Just because they say you're going to go through a flu and you're going to be in like massive pain or whatever, like you got to be careful with that. You got to know what you're doing. Make sure to do your research first before you just start trusting the experts and what you're told to do. That goes for anything.
Yeah, I think that's a very valuable. I think
Trust yourself.
This conversation has been excellent. It's already been an hour and 8 minutes. I can't believe it. I am unfortunately gonna probably have to chop up some or leave some of these questions for another day. What I really want to get into right now, because you were kind of touching on it right now, is shadow work methods, tips and tricks. People have already heard my spiel about it. Journaling. I cut out porn. Did like mirror work, looking at myself in the mirror, giving myself positive affirmations for the first time in my life, and that was just last year. Yeah, I've gone through like some of the process, like my codependency, all that other stuff I talked about in my last interview. So it's all you right now. So shadow work, and give any personal stories you want to tell, just methods, tips and tricks, what people can expect, what benefits have come to you in your life, anything like that.
It's a big topic, because obviously there's always things we're going to deal with in our lives and to come. But like, if you don't address what is there now or what has always persisted now, then what are you going to have later on? Like, you have to address it if it's constantly coming to you. And sort of this idea of trauma, kind of going back to that idea I mentioned, it's important to address it. And see fit, talk to somebody, parents. A lot of people unfortunately don't have a lot of parents to talk to in today's day and age, or at least not as much as I would like to see. Um, it's important to have somebody that you can trust and talk to. And if not, you got your journal. There's people online. I mean, there's YouTube University where there's all these people telling people their problems and what's going on. So there's always something that you can do. And so uh, I personal experience with shadow work, I don't really have that much, only because I hate to say it, but I don't have that much I can address, because I don't see much that I have to address, because if I addressed it, I already addressed it and I put it behind me. And if I do any more, I would mention it to you, but I don't. Anything that I can address. But I would say, like I said, it's the social life that it's like, it's about trying to balance that, manage that. And as long as you're responsible and understand what you're doing, your actions, your contributions, and how it's affecting your mentality, then you're being conscious. And therefore, the shadow is not overtaking you. You are in control of the shadow. It does not become your cult of personality, your new identity. Like, I'm this person who's on the floor. No, I'm this person who's standing up, because the shadow always casts down on the floor, figuratively. So it's important to always just do that self reflection. There's probably 100 other burdens and hurdles I've had to go through before, and I'm sure I'll have to go through 100,000 more as time evolves. But I am very grateful and that I have not gone through anything as drastic as some of the other people that I hear, the other people I talk to. So I have to be grateful for that, and I would support them in any way I can. And I've talked to many people who have had all sorts of experiences, right? I haven't gone through as much as some people. So I have to admit to that. But I definitely feel for them. I have sympathy. I can see where they're coming from. And if anything, it teaches them to be a stronger person. Now they have something with them that really lasts, and they can understand things way deeper than I can, because they experienced it. So I've interviewed a lot of people like that for the End of Slavery Summit, and I recommend people will check it out when that summit is out. When we get all the interviews together, I'll make sure to advertise for it on my channel. We have over 30 speakers. Most of the people are talking about, inner work and shadow work, because it's so crucial that you address yourself and your own conditions, rather than pointing the finger elsewhere and saying these people are the problem or this needs to change. What about yourself? And you say, well, then some people really do blame themselves and they put all the blame on themselves. And we don't want that extreme either, because then they'll say, well, I'm the problem and there's no other problems. No, it doesn't have to be either way, where it's like, I don't blame myself at all, or I blame myself fully and I'm totally responsible. Like, you're responsible for your own life, but you're not responsible for everybody else's lives. Keep that in mind. So you can point the finger all day, but just remember your own place and your own self, both. Time and place is what I would call it. Something I'll mention in my next presentation, and one of the most important concepts. We say everything has a time and place. That is what I would consider one of the laws and make up natural law. Kenneth Bartle would make up, literally, he has 20 natural laws that he considers part of human consciousness that he's discovered on behalf of looking at the whole subject of natural law. And there's many people who have made other lists, hundreds of natural laws. The point is that they all point to a universal innate nature, something within you. I can say this body has a natural law of its own, and it dictates certain reactions and certain conditions. And so if we listen to that, we understand that, then no shadow can overcome us and take us over, such as evil itself. We would, in Lord of the Rings, Tolkien's universe, he would consider the shadow as the evil, right? The darkness. And it's this lack of knowledge. It's this thing that takes over the light. And we have to get out of that. How? It's not just some magical thing where it's like, oh, we just bring the light and get Gandalf on his white horse, and he's going to bring his white robes and he's going to cast away the light. No, there needs to be some courage and hardship along the way in order for that light to persist and defeat that darkness that's taking over. There needs to be a gather of strength of people, select individuals who are willing and strong enough to fight that that darkness. And there's other people who are stronger than you, who went through many deeper and darker things than you. I'm admitting I know a lot of people who have a lot more than me. And you have to say, like, to yourself, like, if I'm going through something, these people are going through much worse. Who am I to say? You know, I'm complaining. These people, they got through it. They're even better than who they are now. You know, if they did it, I can do it. You know, that's another way of looking at it. And there's a lot of great people out there who went through all sorts of things, and look where they are now. They have all these crazy accomplishments. So some people may not be as fortunate, but it depends on how people treat that shadow. And I think Mark Passio and a lot of the One Great Work talking about shadow work is really important. I just unfortunately don't have a lot personally to contribute to it because I haven't had to deal with a lot of it myself. And that's just being honest from the point of view is like, I didn't deal with drugs. I didn't deal with any shady figures. I didn't really deal with anything. You know, I'm very grateful.
Yeah, like like right at the end, you're like, unfortunately, I didn't go through more. It's like, what do you mean, unfortunately? That's great. Like, because
I mean,
I mean, talk about real wisdom right there. Like, it takes one. I mean, it's one thing for someone like me to have to go through all this stuff and get kicked in the face and just have suicidal thoughts and go through all this stuff and then finally learn some lessons and make some changes fundamentally in my own life. But then it takes a whole lot more brains, wisdom, whatever you want, foresight, just understanding, uh, to be able to avoid something without having to experience it in the first place. You don't even need to have that terrible experience for
yeah,
you to
that's my
understand that
goal.
that's going to lead me down a wrong path. No, thank you. I'm just going to keep going where I'm going. I think it's fantastic. You don't have much to share
Well,
personally on the
that's my
subject.
goal. That's my
Yes.
goal. Like I will literally, ever since a young age, I've had conversations with myself and would literally put my it sounds like a schizo. I would literally put myself in a situation where I'm talking to this person and what would they sound like? What are they doing? And what are their actions? And your dreams do the same thing. We all do it subconsciously. If we just bring that subconscious part up front, we can become more conscious and therefore, like you said, prevent problems rather than having to treat all of them like we do in medical the modern medical field. We constantly are treating people's conditions rather than preventing them in the first place. So from a very
Mm-hmm.
first onset, I had that sort of nutrition background that sort of led the way is to say, well, this is a philosophy. It's not just a way of treating people's bodies. It's a way of looking at the world. We can treat problems and prevent them too if we just look at the individual and what they're thinking and find out from their environment. Like I said, though, of course, I probably have gone through many things in the past. It's a matter of recollection. And I could probably look through my journal and I could find dozens of things. Everybody's got shadows. Everybody's got something, you know. It's just a matter of if you can find them and how much you've dealt with them and how much you put them behind. I mean, honestly, you got to move forward, and that's what I've done. I think I can move forward as long as I'm conscious of what I'm doing right now. I stay in the present, and so I look forward to the future.
Excellent. And see, that's the thing. You say you haven't gone through that much, but you still got great insight. So I definitely value that. I know at one point when you were talking, I did start tearing up because when you were talking about how other people have gone through more than I have, like what right do I have to complain? Like that's kind of how my mom is with food. Like I tell her, I'm like, hey, you don't get this kind of food, get more higher quality stuff and all that stuff. She's like, man, there's people starving down in Chicago, and it's
Yeah.
like they don't even they'd be grateful to have this meal. So it's like I'm
Yeah.
gonna buy this, I'm gonna eat it. I'm like, I see your point, but still, you still want to try to eat the best you can. It's like I understand what you're saying, but like that's true. Like with me, like I was like when you were saying that stuff, I was thinking about like rape survivors or whatever else, like people that survived murders and all that stuff, and like they're able to move past that, and it's crazy. I can't even imagine that. So it's just like,
Yes.
yeah, people have gone through a lot more, and it's
My heart goes to all of them, honestly. I
yeah,
mean, it's powerful stuff.
absolutely. Yeah, and but it's yeah, it really just keeps that perspective in yourself, like if they can do it, I can do it type of thing, and maybe I just need to add more tools in my mental toolbox so I can deal with it. Maybe so I can have a better understanding, not just think about it with the way that I'm thinking right now. Maybe I need to have some more information, more input, and then I can be able to put those pieces together,
We're here for
and
each
have a better
other.
understanding.
We're here for
Yeah.
each other. Like, it's amazing. Now I'm meeting all these people who have those experiences, and it's like, I'm here for you. Like, if I am more fortunate, then I want to help the less fortunate. And if you're less fortunate, you want to, be with the more fortunate. Like, this is the relationship we should have, is to help each other as humanity. We're all the same race. We're all of equal rights. We're supposed to be here for one another. So yeah, I mean, totally, man.
Yeah.
Totally.
And I just want to give this anecdote. It's not to pat myself on the back because I couldn't care less about that. It's just a personal thing that just happened right like before we started this interview. Like I came home, picked up my dad. We went to Walmart really quick. He had to get his prescription. He doesn't need it. He should probably fix his health. But so I grabbed like water, whatever else, and we were heading towards the whatever the checkout, and some guy comes up to me with his wife and his daughter, and he's like, "Hey man, my card got declined. Is there any way you can help pay for this my food right now, and I'll give you like some Venmo later?" I was like, "Sure." So I it was like 100. I didn't realize how much he had. It didn't seem like he had a lot, but it was like $130. Then he was asking if he can cash out some. So I was like, "All right, sure, whatever. I just got paid today, whatever." I was like, "It's fine." And so I still have yet to hear from him. I gave him my number, but you know what? It's like I chose to do that. Like I wanted to help him out. I felt that need to help him out. Like you're saying, people that are less fortunate. It's like just got paid today. It's like I'll help you out. I've already helped out people I knew when they didn't pay me back. So I'll help out a
Yeah.
stranger and hopefully he does pay me back. But it's just like
It's the necessary
like you're saying, like we're
sacrifice.
all in this together.
It's the necessary sacrifice against unnecessary sacrifices. That's what it is. We're necessarily sacrificing our time, our effort, our energy, our knowledge, or what have you, to put out something that we see can prevent harm, can prevent the issues of the world. So, like I said, my heart goes out to everyone, quite literally, because otherwise I would not be doing what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so I know that we're already at an hour 20. This conversation's been great. So I just want to finalize it with just prepping.
We
So
can keep
just like
going,
whether
then.
it's
Yeah, yeah.
mentally, physically, spiritually. I know that I broke it down a little bit: food, gold and silver supplements, exercise, praying, meditation. I know we've covered some of this stuff, like supplements. I think it's very, very important. We gotta, like you were saying, like nature doesn't care what your feelings are. If you're sidelining your health, you're going to get sidelined, which was, I think that was a great line. That was excellent. So, like, we have already covered it a little bit, but if you want to, like, say, like, just give some description about what you're doing, whether it's like practically with prepping with food, water, if you're gardening, doing whatever you're doing, practical skills, or like, yes, physically, spiritually, if you're working out, whatever else it may be, just anything
Yeah.
that you're doing to prep for this kind of rough future that we might have ahead of us.
Yeah.
So,
um, Stockpiling is always good. Getting together with your local assemblies, if you're in America, highly recommend. You can, of course, get together with anybody, no matter where you are. You just got to find them, find the network. But if you're in America, which a lot of people who watch me are not from, but if you are, um, you can go to nita.one/assembly. That's nita.one/assembly. I have resources there for something called the American States Assembly. Um, you might think that they're very, statist or pro-government, but not really. A lot of the people there are very receptive to the ideas of freedom and of learning what rights are and educating others, and they're getting stockpiles together. They're doing the action that I see as necessary, which a lot of people in independent media are not doing. Even though they might be doing stuff that the independent media may not like, they're doing the action that the independent media needs to. And that's what I want to see. They have three aspects that I mentioned that every movement needs if they want to succeed: representation, education, and networking. They have all three, and therefore I think they have great chances of succeeding. Not only that, but they have a lot of other tool sets that can be greatly helpful. And by greatly, I mean like literally save like the world type of helpful. um and I don't know how to really stress that much. I'm not going to put out a video on my channel like you can get free money, but it's something like that. So and it sounds really weird, but basically they have ways to get back what was stolen from you, and they have ways that you can give yourself freedom now, so you don't have to wait, so you don't have to beg, so you don't have to educate people. You can do it now. And if you can prevent violence now, or prevent the funding of violence now, do it. And if you have the knowledge and you have the resources and you have the assemblies to back you, do it. And if you have at least just a network in the first place to share these ideas, and these ideas are for all people, and you care for all people, and you say they all have equal rights, then share it with the assemblies. See, there's a lot of people who are skeptical of joining different groups because they're outcasts, they're anarchists, they're this and that, right? And they're like, hey, I'm free. I just want to do my thing. I want to go off grid and stockpile and all that stuff. Well, hey, great. But what if you have a network? What if you can have even more resources? People is power, not just knowledge, not just money. People. People is what made the knowledge. People is what made the money. Don't forget about people. It's we the people, you know. So I like their message and what they're doing, and I'm integrating a lot of my ideas with their movement, with Nature is the Answer, or my movement per se. Everybody's movement, I would say. But you can do the same thing. You can bring the ideas into the assemblies. The assemblies are very open-minded, all volunteer-based, by the way. Everybody is voluntary. I said that as long as this government they're creating is voluntary, it's not a government, but if they want to use the word government, be my guest, but it's voluntary. As long as they know what they're doing, and if they can have guides like ourselves to lead them in the right direction, then we're set, you know? And we don't want money, of course, to get in the picture too much, but that's why we need to hold each other accountable. So yes, I'm stockpiling. And I don't like to go into too much detail, but I like to network with a lot of people. I think that's really important. Um, uh, Make sure you have the proper health items. You know, I don't know, coconut oil lasts a while. Dry food items usually last pretty long. Rices and beans. Iodine, colloidal silver, miso silver is a pretty good type if you do your research on it. You can, let's see, chlorine dioxide, which is considered MMS, mineral miracle solution, something like that. You can actually make that yourself as well, and you need 4% hydrochloric acid with that, or a type of citric acid for absorption. These are things, of course, to research on your own. Make sure that you do your research first before using some of this. Again, I am, and also just for that funny little FDA disclaimer, because I'm in America, I'm not here to treat or diagnose any disease, okay? I'm a health coach, and I could only give recommendations, but you have to consult a doctor or a physician if you want more information, even though you should still probably do some research yourself. Okay, so anyways, back to the conversation at hand. You can stockpile those items and more. Like maybe Manuka honey is good for infections. Who knows? Maybe stockpile baby wipes. I don't know. Paper. Yeah, what is it? Toilet paper, because everybody's so annoyed about, oh my gosh, the toilet paper is going away. Like, just get a bidet or something. I don't know. Think practical, okay? Don't just buy cryptocurrency. Maybe look into other forms, like the currencies that have always existed, gold and silver. Maybe even ammo, and make sure you have the proper self-defense functions, what to do when the grid goes out, electric, all that jazz. Mike Adams has a really good resource for this. Mike Adams, the health ranger. If you go to, what is it, worldreset.news, I think, or yeah, worldreset.news, or survivalnutrition.com, I think is another one. He wrote 2 books. One of them is called The World Reset, and another one is called Survival Nutrition. It goes deep into what specific items you need. So I would recommend checking that out, just looking it up, finding the websites, free PDFs, and they're also in audio format, etc. They can be very helpful for when it comes to stockpiling, and I've definitely learned a lot from that. And there's a lot of connected websites. Like there's a lot of links that he also provides that you can go into. Like he's got also a website called prepwithmike.com, which I think he also has tutorials there, all sorts of videos, and like they're really short videos that tell you how to do things and make your own colloidal silver and stuff like that. Very powerful information. And I have a lot of these printed, you know, for myself. You can like, you know, print his books or whatever. You can even buy different prepping books on Amazon while you have the time, while you have the chance. You know, go to the dollar store, see that you can buy like, you know, 20 pens for $1. I mean, that's a sale for now while the dollar is still up. Okay, because if the dollar is going to crash, if things are going to go down, you want to make sure that you have these items, and you never know what's also barterable. So that all helps. Mainly, like I want to encourage is the network. People need the network, and I'm sure people can recommend a billion other things for prepping. But I think those resources I gave covers most because they lead to others. Would recommend that for everybody. I used to have a whole compilation of resources for that, but I have a bunch of videos on different topics if people want to look it up on my channels and such. When it comes to prepping, I don't think there's much else other than just the network, making sure that you're comfortable with what you got and that you add up a little bit over time. If you get a little bit each time, it adds up over time. So just something to keep in mind if you're getting like gold and silver, for example.
Man, you just freaking rocked it right there. Holy cow, that was great. You covering all the bases here. That was excellent. Yes. So gold and silver, like you said, not just all crypto. So not putting all your eggs in one basket. Like
Yeah.
excellent.
Some
And
people
then
may not
Manuka
like that
honey.
from me. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
I just want the old fashioned stuff. I mean, it's the stuff that has long existed. You don't have to rely on any internet. I have friends that are working on privacy crypto and like special forms of crypto. I think that's great. There's a lot of innovation to be seen with that. But I think there's also still more reliable sources I'm going to tell people that have always existed, that will
Yes.
exist and continue to exist and is tangible and in your hands and you have it, which is like the most important thing if you talk to most people who've been doing this stuff for a long time, preparing for prepping.
Yeah, yeah, and you can even think about stuff like or like just to go back to what you're saying, like you're talking about Manuka honey and coconut oil and all that stuff. Like Manuka honey is great, exactly like you're talking about. Like if you go to like the hospital, you get stitches, you can put that on you. You can put in like if you make homemade chapstick, put some Manuka honey in there. It helps with like the cracks in your lips and all that stuff. And then like I was saying, like Shilajit, excellent prepping item. Holy cow! Like I've been stockpiling this thing like crazy recently because it's on sale and I have a
Yeah,
promo code that I
nutrient.
I know about, so I'm using that, and so I'm just like this. If I just take one serving of this a day, I can just like, this is over a year's supply for me, and I'm gonna get fulvic acid, humic acid, all these minerals. So like for me, that's great, and I can use this in my garden. I can put this in my soil. That's excellent. And then like you're saying, ammo, proper like uh, personal protection, anything like that. And then just think about like whatever, like with me, like I can have a tornado or a storm. So the power's going to go out, get some batteries, get a flashlight, get anything like that, get a knife, get something that'll whatever. Just think of anything you can think of and just be practical about it. And like we were talking about with crypto, like, yeah, you're not going to like with gold and silver, it's got a historical value and you have it and you hold it and it's yours. With crypto, you have to bank on people in your local area, especially in your local area that are going to accept it for tangible goods. Like you're going to give that to them and they're going to have to understand the importance and the value of it too. It's not just having it. Oh, millions of people own it. Yeah. Well, do any people locally own it? Well, you're not, what good is it to you then? So like thinking about that, like unless people in your area know about it and will willingly or like transact with you for that, then it's almost worthless at that point. It's cool right now at this stage, but if you needed to get it locally, that's not going to really help you out at all. So I think gold and
Yeah,
silver is excellent. There's another thing I was going to mention. Like, well, just us talking about shadow work. I was talking about shadow work. That's a great prepping item because if you're not in a good mental state, then you're going to be, who knows what's going to happen when crap hits the fan. Like, you're going to be all over the place. Like, I can't even imagine the mindset that people will have if they haven't worked through anything. And then, like, they
yeah,
just get bombarded with, like, the dollar going down. They just lost all their savings. Their retirement fund is gone, whatever else it may be. And then, yeah, so food and water, storable, anything that's shelf stable. I know I go to this one website, newmanna.com, NUMANNA, and they have freeze dried stuff, last 25 years, whatever else, but it doesn't have all that crappy ingredients like Patriot Pantry with a high fructose corn syrup, all these different things in there. So I try to get that. And then just, yeah, physically just being active, being healthy, like sweating a lot, just exercising, getting your body used to moving around just in case you have to go out there and forage if you need to. Yeah, there you go. Get some Pilates in or whatever. Do some Tai if anyone knows what that is. You might not know it because you're too young.
no, I don't. I
But
don't
Tai
actually
it's
know
like this
that.
workout program that they used to have. So yeah, excellent points.
Call me too young. What are you,
Oh
boomer?
yeah, dude, you were
I'm a
born in
zoomer. Am
2000.
I a
Get out of
zoomer?
here. Get out of here with that crap. Uh,
I appreciate
um,
it.
so yeah, I think that was excellent. Great way to end it. We've already hit an hour 32. I could easily have talked to you for another an hour easily. So if you just want to end this on a high note, just let people know where they can find you, where they can find your
Sure.
work. I already have all your links in the description of my videos, so people can find you on BitChute, Odyssey, all that stuff. But just reiterate where people can find you, how they can support you to, where they can find your books.
Yeah. Well, there's the link right there. Right.
Tap link, baby.
taplink.cc/Cory Health. Yeah, I use that instead of Linktree. So it has everything on there. You can see there's an assembly button. There's my 2 books button. There's a bunch of resources. I have playlists on YouTube. Of course, I can make playlists on other platforms too, but I'm on every platform. And so check it out. I have one like dedicated to action, one dedicated to slavery, one dedicated. And I have a presentation coming soon, and we have a summit coming soon with over 30 different speakers. We have a newspaper after that, which I hope you can get involved with as well, Nicholas. You're great. And it would be really cool that we can just bring people together first and foremost, because that will be the start to endless possibility of action. which is what I want to get going. If we have circulatory, constant message getting out there, and we have a lot of people who are pushing that message, then it amplifies that message and it makes that message more widespread. I think that's fantastic. And then, of course, we all add our own spin. You come in your own angle. You, the person who's listening, or yourself, Nicholas. I mean, we all have our own angle. We have our own way of introducing the stuff. It's fantastic. And the more people who do this, the more of an impact it makes. So I recommend everybody does that. Of course, thank you for everybody who has been commenting all this time as well. And if you want to check out all my books, feel free. I want to get it out to as many people as possible. It's educative. That's it. You can find it on Amazon, most of the platforms. I also have it in different formats, KDP. Like on Amazon.com, I have it in Kindle. I have it on paperback. I have it on hardcover, even audio format that I've personally narrated. You can find for my slavery book. It's great. For new beginners or people who are teachers and want to teach new people. And, don't tell them really the contents of the book. Let the book do its work and then come in at the end when they have questions and they want to talk about it. Let the book do its work. That's what I designed it for, is to sort of help teachers in their process of talking to others. And of course, then you can use the questions and go back and forth, because someone will ask a question that they've already seen before in the book. And then you're like, well, what about this part of the book? Oh, well, that connects to this, that connects to this. And you make the connections and they're like, oh, wow, it's already technically been answered. All my questions have already been answered and they're in here. And can I really refute it? Can they refute it is the question. And if they can, I want to hear it, because I ask these questions in there that are very powerful that not a lot of people can answer. People in politics have a very hard time asking questions or answering questions about morality, about rights. They have a very difficult time. So when you hit at that root, which is the root to all politics and all slavery and all injustice and all justice, period, and all that is natural, all that is right, all that is healthy, which is purpose, intent, what is meant to belong, what we are by our nature, then you really hit at something that nobody on the media talks about. They're all talking about the news. They're all talking about what's happening. Oh, this is scary. Oh, this side. Oh, that side. Well, no, it's more than that. It's not just about tradition. It's about where this universe is heading toward, purpose-wise, universally, always, eternally. There's a blueprint in this universe, and it strives for a certain order. It strives for us to listen to it. We are inhabitants. We are not God. We may think that we are not just mere inhabitants, that we can just do whatever we want, but that is not the case. We have to listen. We have to take note. We cannot just impose our will on others and tell others how to live their lives. That's what we do every time we participate in politics, in law, in elections. So we got to be very careful of that and understand what we're doing. Do you realize what every time you promote taxation, what that's doing? Every time you promote theft, ultimately, somebody stealing other people's money, backing you by the threat of violence, do you understand that is violence? Do you understand it? Or do you try to justify it and say, well, it's necessary for the greater good? Oh, well, without it, well, does that make it right? Just because you can make a justification for it? That's called utilitarianism, justifying the ends for the means. No, you can't justify the means for the ends. No, or the ends for the means. You have to look at the nature of the situation. Okay, look at the actions, its effects, what you're doing, what you're putting out there. Be conscious, and don't take it from me. You've done it all your life. Otherwise, you wouldn't be where you are. We talked about shadow work. Everyone's got a shadow. Everybody's got something to work through. And how do you work through something without questioning for yourselves what you're doing? You have to work through things through yourself first. You have to take note of it. So always personal work involved, and I have a lot of resources for people. Please check it out. Action internally and externally, right? Really important. We take a look at that. Just by asking questions, by seeing new perspectives, you will have more internal communication. You will have more external communication if you simply put the effort into doing so. So thank you, Nicholas, for having me on. I appreciate the conversation. And I know sometimes I might inspire people when I say that, but I don't intend to inspire. I tend to tell them the truth. That is truth. If you find inspiring, great. But just do something, because the universe wants you to. Your body wants you to move. Otherwise, you can't stay stagnant. You're going to become unhealthy. Your body wants you to improve your health. Otherwise, like you said, they're going to be unhealthy. Nobody wants to be unhealthy. If you want to be unhealthy, well, why is that? It's not something you actually want. It's something that you say that you may want. It's not something you actually want. Find out what is the actuality, the reality of the situation. And you'll find that when you look at the reality of the world, you find what is most natural in this world. And my next presentation will go deep into this matter, finding the time and place of where do you belong, right? Not just your time. Your time is decided by what time you create in this world. Time is this time, well, numbers is man-made. There's a time that is movement, that is energy, that is ever present. And that time is there for us to understand. The time is always now to take action. Time for ourselves is determined by how we view time ourselves. I mean, this because we created time. So time and place, find your place. If you don't know where you are in your life, give yourself some time, and then you'll find your place. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you, Nicholas, for everything. I appreciate it.
Yeah, not a problem. And I just wanted to share your tap link just for people to see it because you got a ton of stuff. Your books, contact information, movement website, abolitionism, YouTube, Twitch, Discord, support my work, donate. Brighteon, Odyssey, BitChute, Rumble, Minds. I mean, look at all this. Oh my God, I can't imagine how long it took for you to do that. So people, please, I have that link there. Let's utilize that. Find him, Cory. He's very well spoken, as you can obviously see. Very, very much has a lot to say, and I definitely appreciate every single second of this. I'm so glad you came on. I'm glad we were able to make this work. And I didn't realize that your summit was going to be just an interview. So you invited me to do it. Absolutely, I have no problem doing that. I would love to do it.
Awesome.
Don't even tell me what questions there are. Just let me do it on the spot. I love to do it.
Awesome.
Very,
that
very
would be great.
so grateful. I wish that you lived closer. I'd love to freaking just hang out with you, man. I wish I had more people like this around my neck of the woods. Cool. I just got
we'll keep in touch.
Take more time to find them.
We'll keep in touch, man.
Yeah, definitely. And if you could just stay on the line just for now before I head off. But yeah, thank you. Like I know I got some solid, consistent viewers here. So thank you guys so much for watching. Enzo, I appreciate you and your little antics in the comment section. Thank you so much for being here. And Link, I know that you commented earlier with your typical thumbs up. I appreciate you watching. Thanks for being here. Long time no see, guys. Stay safe, take care, and thanks again so much, everyone, for watching.